Hello, Justin Taylor. Welcome.
Hello.
So good to
Hello,
have
hello,
you.
hello.
Yay. Love seeing your face, love being in your energy. Just really excited to be doing this. And full transparency for my listeners, we actually did an interview together, and then I had some major snafus, essentially lost a laptop with that interview on it. And so now we're doing this again. But fortunately, Justin and I love each other. And so we're happy to have an opportunity to drop in again.
Oh, absolutely. Any chance. Lose this interview too. Let's
No,
just kidding, just kidding, just
don't
kidding.
say that. Don't listen, universe. So, as I like to start all my interviews, I want to ask you to drop in for a moment and just check in with yourself and to answer the question, who are you in this moment, in your life, on this day, in this body, on this planet? But tell me who you are by describing a drag avatar that would embody that presence.
mm, Drag avatar. Um, I'm feeling very golden.
Mm.
So, what would that manifest as? I'm feeling like anything that would reflect golden light, uh, like a big shiny sequin golden tornado.
Mm.
Um, Not a tornado, but yeah, that vibe, very much that vibe of golden light. In fact, I'm an Akashic record consultant, and my records have started to refer to me as golden,
Mm.
which has been a curious development recently. And so that associates with a lot of things for me. But today, it's the feeling of appreciation, the feeling of everything is golden, everything is the one sacred light.
Mm.
You are, I am, this computer, this microphone, this
Mm.
view at my window, and and it's like heaven is a real thing, y'all.
Mm. Yes, ma'am. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. And interestingly, I will balance that in feeling a muted stillness.
Mm.
So I'm, wearing sort of this I don't know, neutral color and looking out at sort of neutral tones. Um, and it is not to deny the vibrancy of life and the heaven that is here on earth, but to
Mm.
feel into this calm stillness, this sort of in between time. It's like between Christmas and New Year's, a lot of things are kind of quiet as we prep for this new year, and there's just a stillness that I'm experiencing. And I guess that the drag avatar I would describe, what's coming up for me is a tree,
Mm.
like a sweet tree that has some leaves, but not a ton and not a lot of flower. Just a sweet tree that's just there in stillness, ready to to start its life in its next cycle, right?
Mm.
Sort of what I'm feeling into. So my drag avatar is a tree, and yours is some
Mm.
kind of golden wind gust.
Yeah. Yeah, like a golden sunset. It's actually sunsetting out where I am right now. So um I feel like I feel like nature is mirroring my vibes.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to get into your journey with the Akashic Records, to talk about what those are, to even look at mine, which I'm super
Mm.
excited about. Before we get into that, I recognize that some of your early aspects of your spiritual path were around Tibetan Buddhist practices and
Mm.
non-dual meditation. I'd love for
Mm.
you to share a little bit about that and how that impacted you to really have that as a focus of your spiritual journey.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it all started with being in a lot of suffering, you
Mm,
know. It that Suffering's the one big portal most people go through to get to spiritual tools, spiritual paths.
mhm,
And I was like 20 or 21, and I was so anxious. I had so much anxiety. I was out of the closet a few years. I was just dealing with so much just emotional pain, never could relax. And I had a therapist who was like, just go to this meditation class.
Mm.
And it was a revolution in my life,
Mm.
that there was a way to actually know the peace that is here all the time, that it doesn't take a whole lifetime of reconditioning myself, but that I could actually find the peace now,
Mm.
and that it's fully here, fully now. And that was in a Buddhist tradition, that class I went to, and that led to those other things you mentioned, the Tibetan Buddhist path that I was on in my 20s for a while, that evolved into really getting into non-dual meditation, and becoming a meditation teacher myself, studying with non-dual teachers like Adyashanti and Rupert Spira, and somewhat Byron Katie,
Mm.
who some people consider her approach, which is called the work, a non-dual approach to suffering.
Mm.
And so these influences, still huge for me, and a big part of how we teach, and then my own path for myself. And then the records have come in the later end of all of this.
Mm.
I was going to consultants myself to look into aspects of my life. I'm a writer, so I work in the theater. I write scripts and poetry and songs, and mostly I was going for career guidance to these counselors,
Mm.
but was getting so much more. It was like meeting my own personal like hype crew.
Mm.
Uh,
Yes.
for those of you who don't know what a hype crew is, it's a hip hop idea, or a hip hop thing, where an artist will travel with a crew of people to boost their self-esteem, and hype them up essentially, so they
Mm.
can go give a great performance. Beyonce for sure has a hype crew, Rihanna 100% has a hype crew, or to record something. And the records, for me, it's like visiting your own personal hype crew.
Mhm.
And like every time I would see a consultant, it would be like I'd be handed this billboard size "I love you"
Mm.
card,
Yeah.
about the real me, as opposed to the negative version that my mind had kind of gotten
Mm.
conditioned to believe in. This, in spite of 20 years of meditation,
Mhm.
things like that. So um I ended up asking one once, what do you do? How do you do this? How can I open my own records? How can I hang with this more?
Mm.
And eventually I got to a teacher, and I discovered I had a very strong channel, and that's what led to doing this professionally.
I love that. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I want to get more into what the Akashics are. But before we move away from the non-dual meditation,
Mhm.
could you just explain what that is in a nutshell? I know we could talk this whole hour about that, but generally, what does that refer to, non-dual meditation?
So meditation for most people means resting the mind on some kind of object.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people use the breath, which is wonderful. It's always here, it's always flowing. I use the breath a lot to
Mhm.
find the peace that's always here. And non-dual meditation itself is meditating without an object. So non-dual means not two. There's not a subject and there's not an object.
Mhm.
And sometimes it goes by different names. Sometimes it goes by the name of just silent sitting,
Mhm.
or non-meditation, or meditating without a meditator.
Hmm.
And in essence, it's just resting in or abiding in your natural state,
Hmm.
which is already meditating. Our natural state is already at peace, unbounded,
Hmm.
happy,
Hmm.
um, without a center, fresh.
Hmm.
And the other techniques that are more transitional, I would say, like meditating on the breath, can help us feel these qualities. But
Hmm.
to truly know them and rest in them, uh, non-dual meditation really, really helps, so that it doesn't become something we visit, but something we are. So my teacher often says meditation is not something you do, it is something you are.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to the stillness of the tree, drag avatar that I'm feeling into, it feels
Yes.
like a coming home, when
Yeah.
you talk about that. It's not about cultivating something that is needing to be cultivated, as in something that's outside of ourselves, but rather it's cultivating our coming home back to ourselves, back to our natural state,
Yeah.
which is, as you mentioned, at peace, happy, present,
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah.
There's
And
something very easeful about that, seeing it.
oh yes.
Mm.
Oh yes. When I discovered this, it was like, you mean I have to exert even less effort? Ah, sign me up.
Yeah.
Like that is it. I'm rushing through that door.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And then, it's interesting to then uh, also see the energy of the hype crew, right? So it's like
Yeah.
we've got this stillness, calm,
Mm.
peace, natural state. And then we also have the hype crew. That's
Yeah.
like this huge, I love you, this like huge, like thrive, child, thrive, and
Mm.
again, it
Yeah.
also reminds me of our two avatars next to each other.
Yeah.
We've got this stillness in the tree with the muted tones, and then we've got this gold swirl around it, saying,
Yeah.
and remember that you are in heaven on earth, that there's
Yeah.
all this life and vitalities. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about, and I just want to say, actually, before we get into that, that the spiritual work that really lights me up, and there's so many different approaches and modalities that can serve in this way for me, but are those approaches that act as a hype crew, that give me these messages of like, fuck yes,
Yeah.
live this life, you've got this, and we are here for it. And
Yes.
it's
Yes.
that's the medicine that I'm constantly seeking and finding in so many different modalities. Like it sounds like Akashic was it for you, was one of the big ones for you. For
Yeah.
me, it's been through plant medicine ceremonies, it's been through men's work, it's been through retreats, and through more physical approaches, different yoga
Mm.
techniques,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
and I love that we have these different access points to that hype, to that gold swirling, that air in motion.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just say briefly that those two images you so beautifully put together, um I think are a really great representation of the spectrum, because
Mm.
we're not just still,
Mhm.
we're not just peace, we're also dynamic. We have these human suits
Mhm.
that want to experience
Mhm.
and express that which is us, that which is inside us, if you will.
Mhm.
So you're not just a still tree, and I'm not just a golden wind.
Mhm.
And uh what is it, that gospel, I am the movement and the rest?
Mhm.
um this description of Christ, I am the movement and the rest, and I am the rest and the movement. I feel that so deeply with your description.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for that in. Okay, great. So what are the Akashic Records?
Okay, very, very briefly. So the Akashic Records are the memory and consciousness of everything that it does. So consciousness, um, by its nature, just simply records in itself all of its own activity. So in the same way that a computer saves everything you do in it by default,
Hmm.
consciousness, or you could call it the universe, or if you're more religious or devotional, God, simply records in itself everything that it does, all of its own activity. And in Akashic practice, we tap into that information for guidance, for insight and wisdom. Some people do it to get help for career stuff, like I was doing when I was seeing consultants. Some people do it to look at relationship stuff, things that are mystifying them, or patterns they're seeing in relationships they really want to understand better. Other folks, it might be personal growth or spiritual path that they're looking into. Some even want to look into past lives.
Mm-hmm.
So the soul's record, which is the record of your individual throughout its embodiments, also has within it the lives that have been lived in other realms, if you want, or other times. And so sometimes that has the seed of a pattern that we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So some folks come to the records for that. Some try to look into what will come. The records are not truly a divination modality like maybe the I Ching or astrology can be, but it does have an ability to share, like, here are patterns that are in your system or in your environment. And if things continue like the way they are, this is where they'll probably go. However, if you make this other choice, or you have another understanding about it, it might go like this.
Mm-hmm.
So the records have some things to say, but it's really not a fortune telling
Mm-hmm.
thing. And this is a practice that goes way back in human history. It's not a modern practice. So the way that I go in involves a prayer method that was handed down through Mayan shamans from ancient Mayan civilization, apparently. And I personally feel like a lot of the great achievements in early human history were because of shamans and priests having access to knowledge beyond themselves, aka the records. Like those incredible temple complexes that the Mayans have, like, where on earth did that come from when everyone else on earth was, like, I don't know, eating dirt?
Yeah.
You know, before a lot of modern civilization or civilizations growing in Europe. And I mean, on and on. I think there are plenty of examples we could think of where humans advanced in a way that seems like a kind of without cause. And so to me, it's like, maybe they're using metaphysics to get
Wow.
some of this knowledge. I don't know. I haven't opened the records to really explore that a ton myself.
Sure.
But it is very clear to me that this is not new. Some people do think it is new because of the way it's done these days and its popularity these days. People think it's come out of kind of recent interest, but it's actually really ancient stuff.
Cool.
You might even say timeless, because records are always being written.
Yeah, it occurs to me as this like insanely vast super library
Yeah.
with just basically all the information.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah. So some folks visualize it that way, as
Mm,
a infinite hall of records, an infinite library. That's
mm.
wonderful. I would say that's wonderful. The one thing I personally like to think about it as is like it's just an ocean of vibrations. It's
Ooh,
alive. It is dynamic, and and there's something about books for me that feels more static.
sure.
Um, but anyway, everyone's got
So
their way of seeing it.
with that metaphor in mind, you've mentioned that the Akashic records have changed your life in major ways. And
Yeah.
before we were jumping on this call, you're sharing with me about your time in Europe, spent looking in your records and being with your records and doing that
Yeah.
work for yourself now
Yeah.
that you've gotten this access.
Yeah.
And so what is that process like for you to swim in that vibration ocean? What is that like for you?
Every day is different. Every day is different. So I have an Akashic practice. I open my records daily.
Mm,
And like I mentioned, I say this prayer, and then I receive based on the questions that I ask. And I can receive images, I can receive communication in terms of sentences and words. I can receive like a feeling in my body, an emotion, or just a knowing. And I have a journal where I literally, write everything down. my question and then the answer that I hear or that I feel.
Mm.
And every day is different, but there's always that feeling of uh, true love and peace.
Mm.
True love and peace are surrounding the experience, and the guidance can get very personalized. Like I might even ask some days, like, please give me a step-by-step process for starting a new program for my Akashic clients.
Cool.
Or like, what is the program? What are the details? Da, da, da. Like they'll like that will happen sometimes. Or
Wow.
it could be more open-ended, like what is the reality of the soul?
Mm.
That actually was the big inquiry for me when I was in Europe. I spent days and days and days and days like asking, like, what is this that I am really? Like, am I
Wow.
just this body, this localized like thing that is moving through this life? Am I this soul?
Wow.
If I'm not the soul, what am I? And the records don't lie. They
Mhm.
don't lie. They don't give you the untruth.
Mhm.
That they will sometimes not give you the full truth because of where you're at.
Sure.
So, of course, what is that anyway? The full truth,
Mm.
right?
Sure. Such a, yeah.
um, However, it really this time really changed what I understood. Really changed what I understood. It was quite a mind opening, heart opening time. Um,
Anything you'd care to share from that? Obviously, that's another full hour plus. But
well, what I will say is, y'all ask this question. Even
mm,
if you don't have an Akashic practice, I think this is a really good question for all of us to walk around with and think with and feel with. Uh, what am I? Am
mhm,
I a soul? If I'm aware of my soul, what is aware of that?
mhm,
What is this that is doing this life? Does it belong to quote me? Is there such a thing?
mhm,
Um, Feeling into that, letting that open your mind and show you more is, I think, the great thing. Whatever I found or whatever I was given, um, uh, could be cool for some people, or it may be like meh for some people. But whatever one comes across on one's own, in
mhm,
one's own inquiry, that is like diamonds, man. That
mm,
that that kind of truth, because it's in us. That truth is in us. And I like to say the records don't live outside of us. That our record is in us.
mm.
It might be way deep down in a deep layer of our quote psyche, um, but it's with us. So, I had this prayer method to get access, but some of us might find another way to that kind of information. I don't want to say like that I have some special access
Sure.
just because I do this all the time. Uh, I think that people can get in all kinds of ways. I know folks who get into their records with a song. They have a
Mm,
song they use to go in there, or the other folks have a dance.
mm,
Um, some folks who are professionals in this realm, some of them download their own method, their own prayer to go in.
mm,
There's no monopoly on this. So, and like I was saying earlier, this is something that goes deep into human history and beyond cultures. There are signs in the Bible that folks were going into the records at the time the Bible was written,
mm,
and in the Old Testament, and in the Kabbalah, and in the Vedas, and several Tibetan Buddhist books that I've read talk about the karmic storehouse, which is another way to phrase the Akashic record. So,
mm.
there's no monopoly on going in.
Well, and what occurs to me, and correct me if this doesn't resonate for you, but is that sometimes people are accessing their records, but they're not calling it that. They're not aware that that's what's happening, but
Yeah,
they're tapping
exactly.
into this deep inner knowing. They might call
Mm-hmm.
it their intuition or
Mm-hmm.
their higher self. and some kind of practice is supporting them in finding that stillness and creating that spaciousness in order to allow that inner wisdom, that intuition, that knowledge to come up and come out.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that while there are differences between what is called intuition and what is the records,
Mm.
that yes, that sometimes people can start speaking the records and not knowing it,
Oh, interesting.
and and or feeling it or seeing it.
Mm.
I would say the common quality of it is it's like, this is not common knowledge to me. This is knowledge that might even feel beyond me, even
Yeah.
though it's stored in you.
Yeah.
If it's about yourself and your own soul, like for example, I'm an Akashic consultant. I open other people's records. That is not information stored within my soul.
Sure. Got it.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not. If we open your record, I'm not going to be reading my soul to tell you about you.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. That's a different modality. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
why don't we use that as our segue to open my records and give folks kind of a sample of how this.
Yay.
Cool. So I'm gonna pause us so you can
Yeah.
get in. All right. So just so listeners know, we put the recording on pause so that Justin could do his work to open the records, and it was a beautiful and sacred process. I've definitely enjoyed the process. I saw some beautiful imagery and also felt a vibration throughout the process.
Mm,
Felt very sacred, um,
mm,
very heart opening, um, very divine. So thank you.
yeah. You bet. So your record keepers are here. They're thrilled to share with you in this way and to help share this process with more people, um, and fulfill your wish to reach people through these means. And so for those who are curious, this process is normally very private.
Mm,
But Will's being courageous and generous and allowing others in on his process.
mm.
So uh, uh, all good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that because that was my first question. Was this concern was, is it okay to share this share stuff from my records on this show? And it sounds
Mhm.
like the record keepers already want me to know. Yes, we can move forward.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know this, but they're just confirming that, one of your deep wishes as a soul
Mm,
is to bring more people into the temple, bring more
mm,
people into your temple.
mm.
So this is your way of doing that. And they absolutely resonate with you and want to support you in that. So yeah, sharing this kind of thing is right up their alley.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love hearing it like that, bringing more people into the temple. That feels
Yeah.
that's like a beautiful imagery for me. I usually think more simply that I want to support people in connecting more with spirit or to awakening. And it feels there's something very communal and warm about that imagery of my soul's part of my dharma is to support people, more people, and being welcome into the temple. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, would it be okay for me that they're saying something to me to say
Sure.
to you, the listeners?
Great. Yes, please.
Would that be okay? Just so simply, y'all are hearing me refer to they and them, and they're saying to me, and I imagine you're wondering what that means. So they're just reminding me to say what's going on. So I, as the consultant, am agreeing to receive from Will's record. And how that happens is there are beings that I call record keepers, or in this practice, we call record keepers, that oversee Will's record, that I'm communicating with, who are delivering from his record and to me in forms that I can understand. So our record is, of course, formless. So we don't go around being able to see it or feel it or hear it. However, when we do this process, these beings, in a way, they help translate it into forms that we can know.
Mhm.
So when I'm referring to they, that's what I mean. It's these helpers that are kind of playing a go-between.
Mm,
Yeah.
beautiful. So one of my questions is related to this new year. I've been starting to think about my goals and my vision for 23. And, I have some exciting new initiatives and projects that
Mm.
I'm excited about getting off the ground. And I'm curious if the records could give me any guiding principles or lessons or
Mm.
something
Mm.
that's going to support me that I can focus on, as I approach this new year.
Yes,
Through
yes,
the
yes, 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 yes. Well, there's just again enormous enthusiasm from your record keepers for everything you do. Your activity is just golden.
Mm,
The using that word for you, the the skill and fluidity that you have with manifesting what draws your passion out,
mm,
uh, and inspiring others to do that. I mean, it is like masterful. It's
mm,
masterful. So on that tip, they're like, you have it, you
mm,
know. They're giving me this image of like uh, a master surfer who like totally knows how to, do all the cool tricks on the wave
mm.
and walk up and down the board while playing the fiddle and wowing the crowd, not to be look at me, but just to like open people up and spread joy.
Mm,
So and interesting that you're giving me water images because your soul's roots are definitely in a water realm. There's a lot of imagery about this.
mm.
um and they're saying to come back to that, but the question about guiding 2023 is, it's actually not about the manifesting the activity. It's about the other end of the spectrum, actually, that you were presenting at the beginning of this podcast, which is stillness.
Mm,
So you're less familiar with the still ground. You're less familiar with the actual inherent bottomless peace that you are. You're
mm,
less familiar with it. And there is a trauma in your system that is intimidated by it, that is not wanting to go there. And so it's very happy to be like, woohoo, let's go, raise the vibration and have a dance party,
uh-huh.
and or talk about feelings and growth and all of these things that are dynamic.
Mhm.
And it's much less comfortable with actual deep abiding stillness.
Yeah.
It's like they're giving me this like person who might be, I don't know why this is the image, but this is the image, just got to give it. So somebody listening to this podcast gets very uncomfortable when there's quote dead air.
Mm, mhm.
And this trauma response has a very similar discomfort.
Yes.
And they're saying that the key to it is to acknowledge this discomfort, to be like, I feel that, I see that, I don't ignore that. um, uh, this discomfort played a bigger role in your life.
Mm,
It did support you. It supported your lineage, which gave it to you. It is not native to you. Your peace is not a problem. But this trauma response can equate it with like death, and that's deep in the DNA of your lineage and kind of the collective human lineage, right? But for you in particular, this is a big portal in 2023,
wow.
is letting yourself just know it, just touch it, and return and return and return, until it becomes like your living room,
Mm,
just as wonderful as the dynamic,
mm,
just as wonderful as activity.
mhm.
It is not, it's no longer used to like um, regulate you when you're feeling dysregulated, but it becomes like the way sleep is for us at night. It becomes a part of life, a part of being whole. And in that stillness, I'm getting chills. In that stillness is a deep, deep, deep transformation for you. There is a wisdom in there, a new, it's going to unlock a new you to get into that. You can't know what it is until you go.
Yeah. Wow.
You can't know what it is until you go. And it will bring up fear. They're saying it will bring up fear, and just take it with you.
Yeah.
Just be like, it's okay. You can stay in the car with me. We're not going to stop driving because you're scared, but we will keep going, but you can come along.
Yeah.
And eventually things will calm down. This stillness, you might feel it right when you wake up in the morning, when the usual you hasn't quite reconstituted. There might be some heavy feelings in that time, like I don't want to get out of this bed. I don't want to face this to-do list. And they're saying you have wonderful ways of moving through that kind of energy to get back to, no, I actually do want to do this to-do list. However, that feeling is still waiting. And so, again, they're pointing at family, pointing at your mom, and her lineage in particular has a lot of desire to be active and not feel below that. And again, the number one thing is reserving all judgment for any kind of discomfort there, and knowing that is natural. And well, they're saying not natural, but that is very common.
Yeah.
And to not take it as a sign that anything is wrong.
Yeah.
But in fact, that you're just growing beyond an operating system that is coming to an end.
Wow, so cool.
Yeah.
And so interesting that we started this podcast with this conversation about stillness, and this is coming through, and it's been a theme for me for the past 6 months or so, this knowing that stillness is something that I need to work on and that I'm uncomfortable with, but not knowing if, kind of this weird tension of, is it a problem? Is it not a problem? What does it mean? And this is super helpful. It's come up a lot when I'm in ceremony, when I'm with plant medicine. It's and I try to find games to help myself stay still, and it's a challenge. And I have, struggled with figuring out why that is when I see so many other people just be able to just, fall into stillness. And I'm like, I need to adjust this, and I need to move, and I need to get up, and I need to. So this is really exciting. And the little things I've gotten recently is Kriya yoga, I think is what it's called. It's very slow moving yoga as a potential way to start accessing this. And also maybe a silent meditation retreat. Anything else that on a practical level might support me, and it specifically, I don't know if there's ways I can get more insight on the trauma that has caused my discomfort with stillness.
Yeah. Cool. So the first question, practices and so on. Yes. So if you feel like the stillness is really palpable in a particular practice you've encountered, do more. Do more.
I haven't even done it yet, but I've been
I come from like you mentioned at the beginning, the world of non-dual meditation, and that is, I would say, the main in a way, the main thrust of those paths and that quote approach is, this is Justin talking right now, by the way.
Yeah,
The records aren't talking, but that I guess because the listeners might want to know this information. So that's an amazing realm to explore stillness through. They're saying one thing that will really help you is to ask yourself, what is noticing the discomfort? What is feeling the discomfort? Because that which is feeling your discomfort, which would be you, is already the stillness. The stillness is not a place one goes in the end. It is actually you. And so letting your attention sort of shift occupancy, like I am not discomfort. I'm feeling this discomfort. This discomfort is a reaction in me. But what I am is this loving stillness that can be with this and have no agenda but to love it.
Cool.
And so to let that come with you, like they were saying earlier, let that be in the car with you as you travel and closer to the stillness. So that's one thing they wanted to give. Yes, non-dual meditation. Using a guided meditation is fine. That might be really helpful for that part of you that wants to not do it. Do not manage discomfort. That's kind of letting that discomfort occupy the driver's seat. Rather than manage discomfort, just feel it.
Got it.
Just feel it. And then if you like, one thing that they're also giving me is you could make it a little more dynamic for you by being curious about the qualities of stillness. So cool. Like, it's like I'm going on sort of a journey scientifically. I'm gonna like catalog for myself what are the characteristics and qualities of this stillness.
Cool. Love it.
Is it still everywhere or just somewhere? Is it, is it behind me or in front of me? I don't know. Letting your mind have something to explore. And then eventually you could let that go.
Cool. Yeah. And any insight on the trauma or anything I need to do?
Yes. So this that they're inviting you into it's like the end of the trauma. It's like the family trauma ends here with you.
Wow.
You are like the one to do it, to go all the way.
Wow. Shit.
Yeah. And it's not due to any one thing. Trauma collects. It's like a sticky point that just collects more and more and more upon itself, and it gets passed down. This like sticky thing gets passed down unconsciously, in family lineage, as I'm sure you well know, and all the work that you do. So they're saying to me, it's not so important to identify any particular event or person. You'll recognize it. You'll see it in your living family. You're like, oh, there's that discomfort. I see that. There it is. There's mom doing it. And just when you feel it, one really useful thing they're saying that you can do is you can say, thank you, family. I feel you.
Cool.
Thank you, family. I see you. Or lineage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the lineage piece. They're pointing at something else about your record, but that you haven't really asked about. But they're asking me to let you have space to ask your next question.
Okay. Let's see. I think I had a question around things that might help me do some of the things that I'm afraid or hesitant to do. I'm not feeling as called to ask that at this point because this stillness piece feels like such an unlocking. It feels like
Yeah.
so important. But I guess I would like to look at love life a little bit. That feels like that's something that's been resonant for me lately. And
Mm.
maybe the question, this is a kind of general question, but what are some best approaches I can take for cultivating a more fulfilling love life?
Yeah. Lover friends. That's what they're giving me.
Okay.
Lover friends. Um, loving bodies as much as the souls
Hmm.
that are using those bodies,
Hmm.
or using isn't the word, but that are finding homes in those bodies.
Hmm.
That's uh, what they're suggesting.
Okay.
And with an exceptional soul like you, really dynamic soul, it's not every Tom, Dick, or Harry that's going to match. You're
Hmm.
pretty high vibration, and you move into intimacy, authentic intimacy, easily.
Hmm.
And so matching with someone who can do that with you, it takes some trial and error and some patience.
Hmm.
And eventually uh, you'll settle into a relationship, they're
Hmm.
saying.
Hmm.
But for now, just enjoy lover friends.
Okay. I,
Yeah. And you have so much to share about that and to show people about that.
mm,
Um, uh, there's this term out there, sacred intimate,
uh-huh.
which is a kind of sex worker that teaches intimacy through sexuality and other kinds of intimacy. And they're saying with you really understand
Mm,
the friendship side, and the communication side.
sweet.
So that, I mean, it's not like you have to teach everyone you're with, but
Yeah,
you
but
just
it's a
naturally
gift.
will.
The gift
Yeah,
I can give.
yeah.
Okay, well, I want to have a little bit of time where we are done with the records to close out our talk. So, is there anything else? I know that's not a very specific. That's
Yes, there is.
okay.
So, like I mentioned before, there's so much water in your soul's record.
Yeah,
I mean, your last name's Fisher.
yeah.
There's that, like, basically, if you ever get to catch Avatar 2, it's gonna be like looking at
Yes, I
home.
just saw it. Like yes, I was like, oh, felt so at home. Yes,
Yes,
and
it's
I
like
thought of
it's
you
like
actually. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, me too. I come from a very similar place. So your
Mm,
I mean, come from is not exactly the language, but
mm,
there's a huge impression in your soul's embodiment of life in this sacred water realm,
mm,
where the beings are like those underwater avatar beings, except it's pink.
mm.
And yeah, it's pink, and it's like these like fairy like cloud whale creatures that live a humongously long time, and that your soul's first like true embodiment was in this realm. And my soul as well is embodied there, so it makes a lot of
Wow.
sense that you and I are buddies.
I love that. I love that.
So anytime you're around water, uh it's just the best thing. It's the
Mm,
best thing for you.
beautiful.
It's like a kingdom of joy for you.
Love that.
Yeah, yeah,
I will bring more of that in this year
yeah.
for sure.
Mm.
Okay, anything we need to do to close the records, and then we'll close.
Yes, I'll just briefly say a few words. um uh the pillar of light we used to open the records is now gently closing down to a spark that will, if you want, you can take with you on your journey. And this is a moment you can silently thank your records and record keepers for all the wisdom they shared, the deep invitation to reside in stillness, in the stillness of yourself, and to let that transform you, jitters and all.
Yes, thank
Mm. And with that, I now close the records of Will Fisher. Amen, amen, and amen.
you. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you. So beautiful. Thank you. That download is so huge. I'm so inspired, excited, curious to explore what that will be for me in 23. That really embodiment and appreciation and presence to stillness. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that stillness, I mean, it wants to saturate you.
Mm.
It wants to saturate you. I mean, this is they're still here. They're the one last thing about this is, of course, you close the records and they hang out. But it is they're using language like rest and the stillness reside in it. And in a way, it's a concession to our minds that want a thing to do. And another way to think about it is to let it come to you.
Mm.
Let it come to you. And so they're wanting to offer that as another option for you and anyone
Let the
listening, is
stillness
to
come to me.
let it come in and fill you completely. Every corner of your house.
Mm.
Just let it fill.
Oof. I love that. I like the reframe of, because I think my approach has often been to try at stillness, to do stillness. Like I
Yeah.
mentioned, sometimes I play the game of stillness if I'm really struggling with it. I'm like
Yeah.
playing a game, which, playfulness is often my approach to addressing things that are challenging or falling into my connection with spirit. And it hasn't worked that well trying to do stillness and trying at stillness. And so
Yeah.
I like this idea of, well, allowing it in, allowing.
Yeah. I think that's a really good approach for those of us. I'm similar to you, Will. I'm someone who likes to find ways to play through a challenge,
Mhm.
and bring the joy vibration to things. But with the stillness piece, it's you have to cede some control,
Mhm.
and uh, so yeah, I resonate that personally as well with that reframe.
Mm. Yeah, and I think playfulness is in many ways very queer. It's very much
Yeah.
a queer dynamic. And actually, just to bring us back into the world of Queerly Beloved, a podcast about queerness and spirituality, I'd love for you to share just any thoughts that feel exciting to you around the queer path, the spiritual path,
Mm,
sort
mm,
of
mm.
ways that they intersect or mirror each other.
Yeah. For me, they're the same. They're the
Mm,
same. For me, spirituality is um, moving from the known and familiar into the real, into the real, which is more unknown,
mm,
and there's more mystery around what's real. And the queerness is the same path. It's moving from the given, the familiar, to the authentic, which is more mysterious and unknown. So
mm,
any person who is doing that journey is doing a spiritual transformation.
mm.
100%.
Yes.
100%. So I always whenever I meet other queer people, it's like, I'm meeting other spiritual, shapeshifty, transformy, amazing humans
Mm,
who are not letting this paradigm dictate their reality.
they are. Yeah.
And um I love that idea, and I also love that it's just so um we have no choice about this. It's like we have to live spiritual lives to be queer people,
Mm,
you know.
mm,
It's and I think that in a way, the mainstream culture has so much to learn from us about being authentic and stepping out of the paradigm that would paper over reality and cut us off from the divine. You know?
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Good wisdom. Such good wisdom. I love that clear connection of the spiritual path and the career path being the same. I've never heard it put quite like that, and it's resonates so deeply with me. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I love that topic, and you know, I'm someone who kind of lives into these kinds of questions a lot. So thank you for asking.
Yes. And as we wrap up, I know that you are soon going to be releasing some videos about Akashic Records messages for 23 for the collective. Anything you
Yes.
want to offer there, or something else, to sort of end our time together? Any little
Sure, sure.
preview into that, or something else would be fine as well.
Sure. So one thing I do as a consultant, every month I open the records of the collective to look at what's ahead in the month, what kind of energies are in the collective that could be affecting us psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. For all of us who are on a growth path, that information can be super helpful. And it's certainly been super helpful to me and my clients. And so for the start of the year, I'm actually doing a download for the year ahead that I'll be releasing pretty soon. So maybe by the time you hear this podcast, it's on YouTube already. You can go check it out. And one of the big themes for 2023 has to do with the increase in and just the collective power to take action on our dreams, and that essentially the rehearsal is over. The preparation period is over. It is really now time to make manifest what our heart desires and put it here in 3D. There is time running out. So in terms of this ripeness, and so anyway, in the download, which I get to film, they go into a lot of details about different areas of life where this is coming up. And in 2023, everything that we start is going to have wings for like at least 10 years.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
yeah, amazing. So don't, if anyone is listening to this, just don't sit on it. Don't
Yes.
wait. No waiting. Go for
Game
it.
on, motherfuckers. This is the
Yeah, game
year.
on. This is the year.
Cool.
Rehearsal over. Showtime.
Showtime, girl. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. What an exciting invitation as we embark upon the newness of 23, the rising of this new year. Justin, this was so beautiful, so amazing, and so helpful to me, and I hope my listeners as well. I want to do some more Akashic record work with you outside of the little snippet that we got to do, but just to have the opportunity to do that and to share that experience with my listeners means so much to me. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you.
Oh, it's an absolute thrill. You're one of my favorite humans. So
Oh,
yeah,
right
it's
back
an
at you.
absolute pleasure. And my apologies if identifying you as human is offensive.
I'll take it as one identifier. All right, much love.